Mary Meet, Annie here. I'm not sure what I'm going to title this video. It's going to be something along the lines of, what if I can't? Something like that. It's actually a combination of a couple of questions I've gotten along the way. Actually, a couple of questions that represent a lot more similar questions that I have been asked. And I think I've addressed already from the spiritual aspect of what if we don't have a certain talent that seems to be expected of us? What if we can't do something that someone says we need to do to fit a perfect description of being something? Along those lines, I got a question and then got a whole series of questions along the same lines from viewers about physical disability and our spirituality and our practices. And one in particular I'll read to you so you can get the gist of it from this person. I'd like to see you discuss being a disabled pagan. I haven't seen it discussed anywhere, and I'd love to hear your views as well as anyone else's. So they are asking for a tag if the subject interests you. I am, first, honored they're comfortable to ask me, knowing that I do have limitations and disabilities that I deal with on a daily basis. Oh, they aren't so obvious in the videos I do. However, having lupus does bring severe limitations to my life, at least compared to years back. They have to do with travel and how easy I get ill if I'm not careful. Have to do with the times my head just won't let me think. Lupus takes over and sends me into that fog that it's known for. The times I'm in great pain. The times I can't balance myself enough to walk. The interesting thing is, if I look back on the diagnosis for myself of lupus, one of the first things, if I look back, that I knew something was wrong before I ever developed it enough to have to go to the doctor and say, hey, what's wrong with me? It became that if I got down to sit cross-legged in a circle, I couldn't get back up. Now, I don't mean by that physically I couldn't get back up. That happens to us as we get older. Sit cross-legged for a half an hour and just see if you can get back up comfortably if you're over a certain age and carrying a certain weight. No, this had to do with getting down and not remembering how to get back up, or not having the balance to get back up. It might seem odd that that could be considered a disability or limitation until you go to a circle at someone's home or a public circle. And the expectation is butts on the ground. Chairs aren't provided. There might be a lot of moving around, a lot of dancing with nothing provided for those who can't move and dance. Now maybe because I've had limitations the last 15 years, let's say, or so of my life. Probably didn't have any signs of any of this early in my 40s. I became more sensitive to creating space for those who maybe needed in a chair in the middle of the room for us to dance around if we were going to raise energy with dancing. Maybe needed a consideration of low stools for those who couldn't get to the ground, or at least a way of providing support to get people up and down that couldn't get up or down. First time I did a circle with everybody sitting on chairs, it felt weird as all get out to me, but I knew we had several in the group that were struggling because of age or disability with some of this sitting down and getting up that were part of our movings around a ritual. It felt odd one time to sit in a circle of chairs to do a ritual. Didn't feel odd after that first time. So, there's a bigger conversation that aligns to the conversations I've already had on this channel about, am I not a good pagan, witch, Wiccan, heathen, practitioner of any sort if I can't do a certain kind of divination or do a certain kind of spell or raise energy in a certain kind of way? I put consideration of disabilities, physical disabilities, emotional disabilities. Depression certainly limits what some of us can do when it comes to what we bring to our practice, and the comings and goings of that kind of tide. Oh, someone who, like me, has moments, sometimes days, when they can't think straight. First time I stood up in ritual to do the Charge of the Goddess as a recitation and couldn't remember it, felt my heart breaking. But it didn't need to. This is where the conversation I've had previously about everybody has the things that will be their talent and their ability that they're most enjoy doing. It's not just about skill, it's about what you most enjoy doing. They define you. No one else telling you what you need to do, must do, defines you. What defines you is the ways you find to celebrate who you are and how you can make a contribution of yourself into the greater existence. Same way with disabilities. We could look at it that we have a list of things that we can't do. If you could see me try and get up off of this stool when I'm done this video, you'd understand what one of mine is. But why does that have to matter? One of the challenges we face, and I wonder if it's not the largest challenge we face, not owning up to any challenges that we live with and being honest about them. I certainly don't natter on and on about Lady Lupus, but I've mentioned her enough that people have been comfortable to share with me their experiences, either with something similar or another challenge that they're living with physically. If we let others, though, define how we have to behave or what we must do, well, we know it's not a possibility for us. Who does the fault, if there is such a thing, rest on in those situations? You know, my grandmother was a double amputee, and I never knew her standing up. She was a double amputee before I was very old at all. And if I remember back to the way she lived, loud and proud, fought for rights for the disabled before there really was such a trend to do such a thing. We're talking in the late 50s. She died in the early 60s. Handicap access. I remember she was very active on getting handicap access to buses in Philadelphia at a time at which nobody would have thought of doing such a thing. What I learned for her is speak up for yourself. Be loud and proud in a way. Make it clear you are complete and whole, but just in a different way than the next person. If you are attending a ritual, a public ritual, and you have disabilities, yeah, you want to check ahead of time to find out, can you even get to the site where they're holding it if you can't walk or can't walk safely? What are they willing to do to be supportive of someone who can't? Dance to raise energy, get up and down, sit comfortably on the ground for long periods of time. What are they willing to accommodate? And I don't mean accommodate in the sense that there's somehow something wrong with you, that they have to give you special consideration. No, it's a matter of their being supportive of someone who wants to be present to them. It's a matter of respect. So when it comes to disabilities, and this person specifically was referencing being a disabled pagan, I assume they could have limitations in their personal practice of what they can and cannot do. It also could be that they have felt put upon, like they are the inconvenience, so they need a consideration in a public or wider celebration. I'm going to just come down to my grandmother's advice when it comes to this. The first thing is, we're only as disabled in a way that we let ourselves be disabled. We have abilities and strengths, and sometimes if we have faced challenges, our strengths and our abilities are much more vast in certain areas than they ever would have been without our challenges. We might not always go to the point of being thankful for the things that challenge us, but we can consider the strength that they have brought us. If we see our strengths, others will see our strengths. If we open our mouths, declare our needs, make it clear what we're willing to contribute, who we are, how we are present, and the expectations we have of others when it comes to being inclusive of whatever challenges we face. When I was in Circle, when I was in my 20s, you couldn't wear your eyeglasses in Circle. It was part of all the things you had to get rid of to be naked before the gods. strange thing is, it made sense to me then because I wasn't 60 years old and verging on technically blind. Yeah, I could take off my glasses and do ritual. I can take off my glasses now. You have just disappeared. Everything in this room has just disappeared. My entire perception of existence has just been altered. There are times I like to take off my glasses in ritual. Talk about going between the worlds really easily. But when I think about something as simple as eyeglasses and how others have an opinion about whether you can or cannot wear them in circle, and I hope to Goddess you've not encountered that has gone by the wayside in the last 40 years. The smallest thing. Considerations of handicaps, of emotions and who we present emotionally. The debates, a circle I was part of once and left, over how to handle the people in our circle. There were a couple of them who emotionally had a lot of swings up and down. Were they a contributor towards energy or a taker of energy in circles? The thing is, they could have been whatever we wanted them to be, because we could lift them up in the times that they couldn't bring energy to circle. And we could take that wonderful exuberance from them when they were at the other end of a swing. If you are a disabled practitioner, it's not about you, my friend. It's about who you choose to be with and the respect that you deserve from them. That's what I ask you to consider. That's Granny talking to you in her voice of declaring her needs and going for them, making sure her needs were met. And think too, if you feel the disabilities that you deal with, emotionally or physically, limit you in some way, explore them deeply. Come to understand how being in relationship to them defines who you are as a person. If you are finding that they limit you, then in that moment the lack of respect you are feeling in the world is coming from you. We are all abled in many beautiful and powerful and unique ways. No sense in focusing on each of our limitations. We come together honoring each other's strength. We carry each other through difficult times. We make offerings of the better part of ourselves whenever we can. It's part of being with. If you are someone who would consider themselves to be a disabled pagan in any way, a disabled anything in any way, it's a matter of connecting to your strengths, to the inner resource, to the understanding of who you are and who you are in the world. And I guarantee you, in the end, if you choose it to be, it will not be about your limitations. It will be about the beauty, the grace, and the power that you can bring to the world and to those around you. I wish you all mirth and reverence. Mary Part.